Private Limited, Mr. Ashish Agrawal, Director, Sejordan India Private Limited, Mr. Munish Sabrawal, Zonal Head, North Region, SBI Fund Management Limited, Dr. Saurabh Agrawal, Professor, Indian Institute of Finance. I would request everyone to please present a very warm welcome to all our panelists. I would request everyone at the back to please be seated. You can bring your cup of coffees and tea as we are starting our first panel discussion. I would request Mr. Rajiv Kumar Agrawal, formal whole-time member, SEBI, to please start the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. It's a matter of immense pleasure for me to conduct a discussion on a subject as important as mutual fund industry, and also before a gathering as esteemed as this. I am very happy to have the eminent panelists with me. I will just take 2-3 minutes to introduce the subject and put the things in perspective. And then I would request all the panelists to speak at least for about 5 or 6 minutes on this mutual fund industry and their own area. And then I will take some questions, I will ask some questions, and then of course I will leave the place, leave the floor open for the audience for the question answers. Friends, in the first address by Mr. Lav Chaturvedi, he mentioned about the Amrit Kal. It's absolutely true that we are passing through, or we have entered the phase of Amrit Kal, where we can expect great things in this country. This is going to be the golden phase of the modern era of this country. Now in this phase, what are the features of this phase? In this phase, we are going to be very ambitious. We are going to have great means to fulfill our ambitions. But our policy framework, our strategies should be right. So we have come to a stage where we can afford to have ambitions, and we will also have the means to fulfill those ambitions. Now coming to our subject, economy, we are going to become very ambitious as far as our growth are concerned. We want to grow at a rate of 6 to 7%, preferably on 7+%. We want to invest more than $1 trillion in every 5-year plan on our infrastructure. We want every child of this country to be educated. We want everyone to have a drinking water, everyone want to have sufficient sanitation, so on and so forth. Now friends, how these ambitions can be fulfilled? These ambitions can be fulfilled if we are able to mobilize the resources. We will have to mobilize resources from all the means. We will have to mobilize the resources from the domestic market as well as from the international markets, global markets. We we are not going to mobilize the funds only, we have to use the capital most efficiently also. How we can use the capital most efficiently? We all know that capital markets provide for the most efficient allocation of the capital. Therefore, we have to mobilize more and more capital through the capital markets. At the moment, we are having capital mobilization through the capital markets in the range of 3 to 4% of our savings, which has to step up significantly. I am very happy to see the positive aspect of this crisis period which we faced was that we became very much aware of the capital markets. People were free, they started investing in the markets, and they read a lot. So there was a significant increase in the number of participants in the market, which could not be done in the earlier decade. Now, there is another requirement of this Amrit Kal, that we are in any case going to have a good growth rate. We are going to have a lot of prosperity, but this prosperity needs to be shared with the maximum population of this country. This should not remain confined to few hands only. Corporate sector is growing, therefore the benefits of this growth needs to be distributed to across the population of this country. Therefore, we have to have the vehicles through which the savings of the citizen are invested gainfully, and they also reap the benefit of the growth and the profits. There is a third requirement, that in the capital markets, we should have the least influence of the foreign capital. First thing is that we should be sufficient with the domestic capital. Of course, that is not possible in the near future, so we will continue to have the foreign capital. But you would definitely like to avoid the negative effects of the foreign capital. We don't want to face a situation which the Asian tigers faced few decades back. Therefore, we need to have very strong counterparties in our country who can counter the strategies of the foreign investors, foreign institutional investors, and our markets do not get adversely affected. Our markets do not face the extreme volatilities. Now, as far as these three requirements which I mentioned are concerned, mutual fund industry is able to fulfill all these requirements. This is an industry which has proved itself in the last 10 years, which has proved in the last 2 years that it can withstand the volatility of the market created by the foreign investment funds. When the foreign investors were withdrawing from this market in 21, 22, the mutual funds were standing, and they were keeping the markets buoyant. We have seen that the industry has grown in the last 10 years by about 5 times in 10 years, therefore bringing more and more investors, more and more capital into the capital market. At this point of time, the AUM of the industry is approximately 41 trillion rupees. 10 years back, it was approximately 7 trillion rupees. So, the industry is proving the worth. The industry is doing very well. It has shown a very good growth in terms of the participants, in terms of the AUM, in terms of the participants from the tier 2, tier 3 cities. Thanks to the policies, the policies of the regulators and the efforts of the industry, we have been able to distribute better in the tier 2, tier 3 cities. In 2012, I remember, we had brought the provision of extra TER, 30 basis point extra TER for the B15 cities. That policy proved to be very, very fruitful, and we have expanded that to be 30 cities now. At that time, I remember the first time the provision of allocating a certain percentage for the education was also brought in, and that has also proved to be very good. And the industry is having sufficient money for investing on awareness and the education. Then there was also a separation of NAV for the direct investment. We had separated out the NAV for the scheme in the direct investment and the investment through distributors. That is also increasing the direct participation. Of course, it is yet very low. I have heard that it is approximately 15 to 16% only, which is very low. So this should increase. So friends, the industry has proved its worth. It has grown very well, but still there is yet a lot to be required, which we will be discussing during this period. All the experts are with me. I am not expert on this mutual fund industry. They are much better experts to tell you, what are the challenges and how these challenges can be met. So I leave the floor open for the panelists. They may one by one speak for 5 to 6 minutes and give their perspective about the industry. Then we will go for a question answer session. So can I start with you,
Dr. Saurabh Agarwal.
Yeah. Mr. Saurabh Agarwal. Yeah.
Respected Mr. Rajiv Kumar Agarwal ji, Mr. Alok Singh, Mr. Sandeep Bagla, Mr. Ashish Agarwal, Mr. Munish Sabharwal, and ASSOCHAM participants, we all gather here to discuss something which is closest to our heart. Spending full day to understand how to multiply our wealth. The reason why each one of us is talking about mutual funds is, there is a story which started, mutual fund sahi hai, which somehow I feel needs to be changed. And last year also I said, no, sahi mutual fund sahi hai. Meaning thereby, when we talk of this topic today, we have to understand that just by doing systematic investment plan, sticking to 2, 3, 4, 5 mutual funds, one cannot expect that he or she will be guaranteed a CAGR of 11 to 16%. There are funds which have given 4%, 5%, even poor returns than even fixed deposits. So sahi mutual fund sahi hai. And the idea why mutual fund has become closest to the heart of everybody is, invariably most of the new millennials, the generation Z, they are focusing on putting at least somewhere around 20,000 to 50,000 rupees per month towards mutual funds, which they expect by the age they reach 60, 65, would become a corpus of 3 crores and would provide them a stability in their old age. Now with this perspective in mind, we are progressing. The same model is being adopted by a new pension scheme, the NPS scheme. That is nothing, they have started another tier 2. So if you don't want your investment to be blocked till 60, they have come up with a tier 2. It just works like a mutual fund. Now, I've been given 5-6 minutes. Each topic I will take a minute, sir. And the first topic is regulatory framework for sustaining long-term growth. Now in this, there are 2 news for you. One is the good news and one is the bad news. The good news is the TER, total expense ratio, is being capped. So as of now, it varies between 0.26 to 0.86. Now, of course it can be more, but if it is capped, at least a naive person who does not know how much a mutual fund is charging knows I will be charged this much. So there is a capping done. But then to see to it that good mutual funds are paid more, a performance linked fee is also being permitted. So I think this is something good done by SEBI to protect the interest of investors. On the flip side, those of you who were lovers of fixed deposits and who were investing in debt-based funds. For them, the budget 2023 has taken away the indexation benefit. From 1st April 2023, if you are putting your money into debt funds, you will be not getting any indexation benefit. On previous investments, yes. But those made after 1st April 2023 have lost their LTCG indexation benefit. What does it mean? All investments would be charged at short-term capital gain, and at what rate? At the tax rate applicable to you. So if you are in 20% bracket, you will be charged 20%. If you are in 30% bracket, you will be charged 30%. So this way, the debt mutual funds have become less attractive to equity mutual funds, but they still remain better than bank FDs. The reason being, you only get charged tax at the time of redemption. In case of FD, every year the interest is charged the flat tax rate. So this is one benefit. And if you are a smart investor and you can take the benefit of 1 lakh rupee exemption, then you can continue to sell year after year and still remain tax free. So this is one particular benefit which I feel, but somehow debt funds have lost their sheen, and it is not all debt funds. Those debt funds where the investment in equity is around 35. So there are specific debt funds they have specified. Now, the next question arises, the second point is performance evaluation. And for performance evaluation, many agencies are there which are giving ratings, rankings, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. But a word of caution. Please understand, if some mutual fund has already given 25%, 30%, 35%, of course, we feel once a leader will always be a leader. But that does not always work in the financial sector. So one has to understand, one is not entering into particular mutual fund at a highly valued valuation. So I again bring you to the concept of valuation. If something is already overvalued, you can't make more money on it. So as a mutual fund investor, you have to see not only existing leaders, but also take into account the new fund offers that are coming in and who will be the potential leaders. And I think in this, very important role is played by the who is managing the mutual fund. So I think there has to be, SEBI needs to come up with some regulatory guidelines for how these funds are ranked or rated. This becomes particularly very important because the plethora of type of funds that are available in the market, large cap, small cap, mid cap, flexi cap, or hybrid funds. Practically, it's very simple to say, you know, when somebody starts earning, say 60,000, 70,000, these are what MBAs, once they start earning. Now where to put money? Somebody will say, put your money into large cap. Now large cap will not give you that kind of return that you want. So somebody says, okay, and you don't like large cap, put small cap. So they will be very volatile for you. So extremely volatile. So somebody says, okay, you don't want both, you put in flexi cap. So the idea is, here what comes into picture is the work of Nobel laureate Richard Thaler, behavioral finance. Each individual has his own goals and objectives and needs and risk appetite. So taken into account, these parameters should be taken into account not only for equities, now also for mutual funds, and I think AMFI can do a good job in linking the two. Corporate governance is very good in terms of mutual funds because they work through a trust structure. On the distribution strategies, the only point what I want to make is, today when a new person wants to enter this industry, you can become an investment advisor. But the guidelines to become investment advisor are very tough. You could become a mutual fund distributor. Or the third thing is you could become a research analyst. You cannot become all the three. I think all these are interlinking. A person could be a very good investment advisor, he could be a very good mutual fund distributor, and he could be a research analyst. Now, the earnings from one particular career may not suffice for his living. So having all these three into different silos, I think there is need to be a mix. Secondly, the process of certification and approval, at least for individual level, should be kind of automatic. The kind of documentation is still very lengthy, and I was seeing recently applications since 21 are still pending, particularly the individual application. So there things can improve. Another thing is the innovation of small case. I don't know how many of you are investing through small case, but recently Mr. Kamath said small case is the best thing that has happened to mutual fund industry. But there is and I don't know how many of you know, there are specialized AMCs which help you decide which mutual fund to come in or exit, because it's very important to withdraw also from a particular mutual fund. But the charges charged by these small cases become good only if you invest anywhere between 5 to 10 lakhs. So if you're just putting in 20,000, 30,000, the cost of investing in these small cases and their switching cost, because they from time to time tell you, now this mutual fund is becoming overvalued, you shift to this mutual fund. So that is the benefit of the small case. But if you are not putting in adequate amount, you would not benefit. I think a lot has been done by the government for the mutual fund sector. A lot of people have a lot of interest in this sector, but the kind of in-depth research, the benchmarking with international practices, the kind of knowledge creation, distribution, and in terms of awakening in terms of people, that is still a long way to go. I think 120 billion people need to be empowered, and they must start making small 500, 600 rupee investments, and I think ASSOCHAM can play a very, very important role in this task. With this, sir, I come to an end. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Saurabh. May I request Mr. Munish to give his thought?
Thank you. When the professor speaks, everything stops. Huh? So, I start with the vision of Prime Minister, that is for the Amrit Kal, that is a Samradh Bharat, Samrath Bharat, and Shashakt Bharat. And the mutual fund can lead in the first, how to create a Samriddh Bharat. And for that, what is more important, that is a saving. Inculcating the habit of saving in the masses. And the mutual fund can be the best product. Today, everywhere, if you want to spend, there is no KYC required. But if you want to save for your future, then the KYC is there. Bank has already KYC. So we have to think out of the box. Like when you go to the market for spending, so you pay through a Paytm or Google Pay, the same way, if we inculcate the culture of saving, if you're going somewhere, you see a logo of SBI mutual fund and the QR code, scan it and invest it, 100 rupees, 200 rupees, and gradually create a corpus. We have to think on those lines. If there is no KYC for spending, why should we have KYC? And we can start with these schemes like overnight fund, which is investing only in CBLO type of product. Equities come the long way. So, and the second, which is a more important, to do it, we require the manpower, so who can actually reach out to the ultimate customer. That is very, very important. Reach is also very, very important. And we at SBI Mutual Fund feel that the mutual fund can reach only through a one medium, and that is the phygital. Physical and the digital, they have to coexist to add a new customer in the mutual fund space. And for that, mutual fund is not if you're investing in the mutual fund, that is not investing in the schemes which is giving you a highest return. Mutual fund is a process, and process needs times. And we have seen the schemes which are outperforming significantly, they are underperforming for some point of time. And schemes which are underperforming some point of time, was outperforming at some other point of time. So what is more important in the mutual fund? That is a process of investment. Number one, in the asset management company, what is the process of the investment? What are the ethos? Because in mutual fund, we are managing the money in a fiduciary capacity of small investors. So ethics are the very important in the managing the mutual fund money. And to get that money, the reach is also very important. So we have to create a more number of distributors. We have to create a more number of distributors so that we are able to reach out to them. And for that I can generally say, कि चलो जलाएं दीप वहाँ जहाँ अभी भी अंधेरा है. We have to reach out to the people who have not still invested in the mutual fund. I just reading the one data. How many people are the active player in Dream 11? Any guess? In India, how many there are active players in Dream 11?
14 crores.
16 crore. And how many mutual fund investor in India? Unique investor? 3 crore 70 lakhs only. Where we are going? We should promote the savings. So for that we have to think drastically. We have to create the reach of the distribution partners so that we are able to reach out to those people who are spending the money unnecessarily to start saving for their future. Dream 11 में कोई करोड़पति बनेगा या नहीं बनेगा, I don't know. But in mutual fund, if you stay invested and keep on investing regularly, definitely, and investing meaningfully through SIP, you definitely become a krodpati. So for that, mutual fund is not, as I told earlier, is picking the best fund. Nobody can do that. Mutual fund is a process. It is a behavior management, as the professor said. Greed, fear, boredom. If we are able to manage that behavior, we can create wealth. For that, there is only one mantra, that is the chare veti, chare veti. We have to keep on investing. We have to keep on stay invested. We have to long-term investor. Only then we can create wealth. If we keep on seeing that this scheme is performing, I have to shift this scheme, and next day we have to look into the other scheme, then the wealth will not be created. It's a process. And the regulation are very important, and wherever today the mutual fund is, that is because of the revolutionary changes which has happened in the mutual fund industry, whether it is abolition of entry load or and there are a number of regulation which has come, and the recent is a rationalization of TER. और मैं तो अपने distribution partner और investor को कहता हूँ कि ये जो हमारी जो growth है ना, that has only happened because there is a bumps in our journey. वो चैनल पे आता ना, अगर चैन से सोना है तो जाग जाओ. So these regulations makes the distributor, mutual fund and the investor alive. है ना? When the changes are happen, they change them with the passage of time so that they can become relevant over the period of time. And change is the only constant. So my summation is the changes are keep on happening, and this is a part and parcel of the business, and this is good for the industry. But looking into the profitability of the AMCs for deciding the TER, that is a really, I'm not in that favor. If we look into the net interest margin of the banks, we say that this bank is performing phenomenally well because its net interest margin is very good. But for the mutual fund business, there is a different parameter altogether. We have also, if we want to stay longer, if we want to stay relevant, then all the stakeholder, investor is the first in the center point, that should make good money out of the mutual fund. Distributor, they should make a reasonable money, and the AMC should also make a reasonable profits to stay relevant so that in the testing times, they can stand alone. Thank you. This is all my observation for you.
Thank you, Mr. Munish. Now I will request Mr. Alok Singh to give his share his thoughts.
Good morning, everyone here. Thank you, ASSOCHAM and all my fellow panelists on the stage. So, one thing which I've been hearing that, we need to save, we need to save. But, if you look at India is a saver's country. If you look at the saving rates in India has always been very high. So it is not that we have to be taught how to save. We have been saving. The only thing is we have not been very familiar with financial saving. Other than FDs, that we have traditionally been investing in gold, real estate, FDs. And that's an investment behavior which has been adopted because there has been a history of people seeing that, how the property doubles, how gold provides returns, or, how lazy investing of FDs, even 7%, 8% over the period of time give us a fantastic return. But yes, as the economy grows, as we become prosper, the ability to consume, and after that the surpluses are still there, and obviously that has to spill over into financial saving. Now the point is that over there are many unknowns, and that's what make people nervous. It is not that the people are not aware of mutual funds, people are aware of mutual funds, but they don't know what will be the outcome when I invest. When I invest in FD, I know 9%, and after 2 years, 3 years, this is what I get. Here, it is in the process of development. That investment history or the behavior is in the process of development, and that is why if you look at the way retail investors behaved in last 5 years, right? They never invested because every person part of financial market, especially equity market, used to very famously say, retail investors come at top, redeem at bottom, they never make money, right? But if you look at during COVID times and subsequent to that, retail investor behavior was very different because they had a history of how it works, right? So I think that's the process where, while we tell everyone to be patient as an investor, we as a fraternity, also have to be very patient and contribute towards, making people comfortable. Because why anybody gives deposit in State Bank of India? Because they feel that this is the bank which is not going to go anywhere, right? So the moment people get that comfort in the vehicle, they will give money. People have money, right? Yes, the next gen or the new gen which we talk of, they are more influenced by the Western culture, but the larger population has a habit of saving. Then comes the other part of it, and which we often talk about, this fund will do well, that fund will do well. See, ultimately for any of the fund to do well, the economy has to do well. If our economy does not do well, nothing does well, right? So basically we are part of a ship which is called India if India does well. And that is what when we talk of, stock market has delivered 15%, 16%, and although that is nothing but the nominal GDP growth rate, if you look at it's broadly that number, right? Plus minus 2-3%, which is basically transmission adds or losses, which is basically right. So henceforth also if the nominal GDP grows at 12-13%, we will grow at that, and the underlying asset, which is our corporates, will do that way, and that will get reflected in the economy, right? In the stock prices, and then the NAV and everything of that sort. So ultimately, for anybody to invest in equities, have to believe that India is going through a high growth phase and will continue to sustain, and if that happens, you will make money. Yes, there will be phases where somebody is ahead and somebody behind, but ultimately it is, yes, I'm not saying that there will not be sour lemons, there will be, right? And which is a process which has to be done, and somewhere, as a fraternity, if I look at, from the fund houses, have to make sure, and the board and the trustees, and have to ensure that, they are putting the right talent, they are equipping that. So ultimately, I think that's how it has to be looked at. And because it is a game of compounding, and which makes, so you have to be patient. Yes, you have to be watchful. And also, I'm saying again, that if anybody believes that India is not doing well, trust me, equity markets will not generate return for that person. And you have to be patient with that, Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alok. Now I will request Mr. Sandeep Bagla to share his thoughts. He is CIO of Trust Mutual Fund, which is at the moment dealing in the debt funds. So particularly we can have a good perspective from him on the debts.
Thank you, sir. Hello, good afternoon. I think some good points have come out today that, first of all, the country has to do well. Now, India is a country of high savings, but we also have been a country where we have been chasing returns. Now, make no mistake that last 7 years, the increase in SIPs and the inflows in equities have been backed by 7 years of very good performance in equity markets. If we do not have good performance in equity markets, perhaps the savings would go into a different channel. If you look at the history, let's say 30, 40 years back, the capital markets was in shambles. It's only after SEBI was formed and SEBI started, regulating the securities market. There were, much better security laws. NSDL came in, DMAT happened. The structural, the probability of stock exchange failing or default problems, they all went away. Once those problems were taken away, the equity market culture has grown, and only after that money has come into equity market and financial assets. Before that, if you remember, if some of you were there in the markets, that time the markets were extremely volatile, and there used to be a spate of IPOs which used to then disappear from the market after raising money. It's not that the same is not happening now also, but the extent is much lower, and probably those companies do bounce back in the longer period. Similarly, if you look at when gold was doing well, there was a period when gold was doing well and Indian investors were investing in gold. There was a time when real estate was doing well and people were using leverage to buy real estate properties, and they have gained from that. So India actually is a country which is relatively on a per capita basis still not as advanced or as rich as other countries. People don't believe in savings, people believe in maximizing returns, which is why the issue of churning happens, or there are certain malpractices which happen, and people do want to like to chase returns. Now, if you were to do a little analysis, you would realize that most theories of finance say that the most amount of money is made by the right asset allocation. So if you were to allocate assets which are likely to do well, that would contribute to 60–70% of the returns that you make. Stock selection or the fund selection is a very small part of your overall fund management or fund generation, return generations journey. So instead of thinking so much about which fund to take, which category to invest in, and I agree there can be confusion. There are, I think after SEBI categorized funds into very specific niche instruments, and in 2018, the whole idea was that less funds will be launched after that, which end up confusing the customer. After that, I think more than 500 funds were launched. That means on an average working day, almost 2 to 3 days, one fund was being launched. So the industry also, I think, needs to mature a little. While sales and distribution is good, if you were to confuse a distributor, if you were to confuse an investor, that is counterproductive. So as industry practitioners, we do complain that, while SEBI has done a lot of great work in terms of creating the infrastructure, making the marketplace a much safer place, there are elements at times we feel is that, there is regulatory overreach, that you tend to overreach and regulate everything which need not be regulated and left to the industry to self-regulate. But the problem is that when I look at the industry, the kind of mistakes or the kind of silly things that they have done at times, if children don't grow up they remain under regulation. And I think that is what is happening to us. And I think that it's time that the industry also grows up a little and starts doing things in a more responsible behavior, whether it's term of investments, whether it's in terms of distribution, whether it's in terms of governance, that the regulator also feels comfortable. We can let them be and they will behave themselves. So I think, it's a process, as people have now understood, that it is not about running behind returns. It's not that, I will invest only in gold, I will leverage and invest in equities, I will leverage and invest in housing or real estate, or I will start playing IPL and I will try to, sorry, not IPL, Dream 11 or such other games, and I will try to make money. I think the whole process has to be explained to people that you can make money and generate wealth over a long period of time, and do not think of assets as one against the other. It is not me versus you. It's not FD versus debt funds. It's not equity versus IPL. It is a good allocation which you do, which is most important for you. After that, which fund you pick, if you're lucky, your fund will outperform by 3-4% to some other fund. But in overall scheme of things, the asset allocation will matter. And I think that is what we have to understand. People ask me that, is passive better? Is active better? There will be periods when passive will do better than active because of certain reasons, because, it's passive is also not passive. Passive also actually keeps changing, because if you're following an index, the index keeps changing on a periodic basis. So it's not really passive. Similarly, when active outperforms passive, it will be by a huge margin. So there will be periods where, so you have a combination of passive and actives in your fund, in your portfolio. Don't try to maximize returns from one single asset class. Bank FDs are good, they are stable, they can give you money back, but they cannot give you capital appreciation. They cannot do, when interest rates come down, they cannot give you returns of 14-15%, which the income funds can give. So try to get to a good distributor or a good advisor. And if you're advisors, I think you should try to tell people that, India is a growth story, remains a growth story. There will be bumps, as somebody mentioned, and we will learn from that, we will make mistakes. But stay invested across asset classes. Give weight to, portfolio yield or to taxability, but that does not take away from the main character that high returns can be generated from debt like it can from equities. And debt and equities typically tend to move counter to each other. If the economy does well, obviously interest rates will go up, debt funds will not do well, equities will do better. If the economy is not doing well, if the global economy goes through a cycle, then central banks will reduce rates and put liquidity, and eventually debt funds will do very well. So instead of you trying to time the market, if you have a good asset allocation, within debt you could have long-term funds, you could have credit funds, you could have short-term funds for liquidity. Within equity you could have large cap, mid cap, you could have hybrid funds depending on your risk appetite. So this whole debate of is this better, is that better, I think that is something which we have to understand and get slightly matured about. Everybody in this room would want their children to come first in the class, but that is not possible. So your child might not be good in maths, but might be good in history. Might not be good at history or maths, but might be a good painter or might be a good singer. So make room for everything. Don't just close possibilities by saying that, I want to be in the best fund, the best asset class, the best performing portfolio. That simply is not possible. So listen to your, wealth advisor's advice and remain well diversified so that you can gain over a longer period of time. Thank you.
So Ashish Agrawal, Director Resurgent India, to share his thoughts.
Thank you, Rajiv ji. Thank you very much. I think it's always an advantage to speak in last, or disadvantage also. But no matter. So friends, as I have given my presentation in the morning, in the inaugural session, I tried to cover up the findings of our report. So if you see the mutual fund industry in comparison to the other industry, financial sector industry, it is more transparent, well governed, and you see in this industry the growth has also come very well. But still there are many issues which need to be, I think of. The financial education actually, the one major aspect which we are missing in our country, the financial education is not there for the youth actually. You see in schools or in colleges have this system, but in the schools, if we have some kind of financial education system where we can teach to our students at the early stage that what are the ways of savings, how they can understand the financial market, how they can get the returns out of it. So practically, if we can get this kind of education for the students, they will know these things. Many times we are not doing or we are not investing because of ignorance actually. So as we have seen that there are 3 crore something unique portfolios are there, and in the country of 140 crore people actually, if you see, we are way behind actually, and we have the largest youth in our country actually in comparison to other countries in the world. So this youth who is young, and they are the people, or those are the young people, those are the backbone of our growth, and we want to reach $30 trillion economy in 2047. So meeting out all these things, and for the growth of the mutual fund industry, if we can have the one thing, the financial education for our youth at the early stage, this will help to educate them, and then the investment by them also. So that from the early stage, they will start investing in the mutual funds, or they'll know the mutual fund also. That's the one aspect which I want to just highlight. The SEBI or the regulators or the government of India, or the academic institutions like Saurabh is running academic institutions, they can discuss with their regulatory body and all. That's one part of this. Another is too many schemes, too many categories are there and all. So one thing is rating. This is the topic of this our discussion also. Whenever you are investing in bonds, you are asking whether it's a AA rated bond, it's a AAA rated bond. If it is a BBB rated bond, will anybody will invest in that bond actually? I don't think anybody would like to invest actually. So I'm also investing personally in the mutual fund, but many times I'm lost also that where to invest, which scheme, which if you see that we have some kind of rating mechanism, although it is there, but practically when we are investing in mutual fund, we are not asking the rating actually. We are not checking rating by third party. It should be more, I think, in a better manner, or it should be, I think awareness should be there from the SEBI and the other education mode, where the people should see that what is the rating of the fund actually, because rating will cover up many aspects of the fund actually. We are seeing that we are carried away with the returns of the funds and the mutual fund house and all these things. So this third party stamping of the rating can help to some extent to decide faster that where to invest, which are the good schemes for us. So that's the second aspect which I think it is very, very important to bring in the system. And the third is the distributors. We have seen the era, some 10 years before, 12 years before, the distributors have started surrendering their certificates actually. Even still, as of today, the number of distributors, keeping in mind the total population and the country size, we have very, very minimal number of distributors. Why the people are not coming? Why the people are not coming to become the distributor actually? We have to see it. I think we need to work out in that how the maximum number of people who are involved into other financial services they should come forward, or the youth who is graduating and all, and they want to do some earnings, they can be the part of it. Although we have a very robust system of making any distributor, or we are having the examination also, so that this kind of education or certificate will help. But we need to have more and more distributor. I think somebody has also told earlier that the reach is important. SBI has told, I think, that reach is very important. So, because now the mutual fund is already there in India, but it is not in Bharat actually. Because 3 crore is not nothing actually. So we have to take it to the Bharat, then we have to see that the ecosystem should be there at all places where the distributor should be there, who should educate and who should help in the, and the digital, this online investment and all these things are there, but there are a lot of challenges are there, a lot of, I think, situations are there where the people have lost money. So, because you see that in our rural or semi-rural area, people are not educated actually. So whenever you are saying that please invest in the mutual fund and SIP, they will say that I am okay to invest, but they are not aware that how to keep the OTP, how to keep the all this confidential information with them and all. So they are passing everything to the other party who is helping them, or sometimes there are people who are misusing it actually. So in this digital era, we have to see it also that these kind of frauds or these kind of challenges should also be removed or should be minimized so that this confidence should be built up in this online era actually. And other than that, as I told, the growth is not a limitation. We are still way behind from the comparison to other countries in the overall mutual fund investment. As Resurgent India, what we feel in last 5 years, there is a growth of CAGR growth of 17.5% in the mutual fund industry. But in the next 5 years, this should be at least 21% CAGR growth in the mutual fund industry. So the future is very good. And we hope that with this all challenges and opportunities, the industry will grow further and further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashish. Taking a thread from Mr. Ashish's thoughts, I find that the main problem is in our mindset and lack of financial literacy. Generally, you must be seeing, even at this point of time, when we have come forward a lot of awareness has been created in the market, in the country, and a lot of financial literacy has also spread. Still, a large cross-section of the population considers these markets as den of speculation. Still, they are सब सट्टेबाजी है, कुछ नहीं होता है, price set होता है. Still, they believe, they don't know, I mean, what kind of transparency has taken place, what kind of information symmetry has taken place, what kind of regulations are there which are keeping the promoters much more disciplined. So, in spite of all this, still people are not having that kind of faith which they should have in the capital markets. So now this is a very important question. Mr. Saurabh, I think you can be the best person being from the academia. How we can improve the situation in the country where the people from the beginning, when they are studying, they understand the concept of saving, they understand the concept of asset allocation, they understand the concept of risk management, they understand the concept of capital, risk capital, and all these things.
Rajivji, it's a very beautiful question you have talked about, change in the mindset. And I think change is the only thing which is constant. And recognizing this, now CBSE has introduced financial literacy in 11th and 12th. So, and not only in 11th and 12th, even financial literacy is being, a new committee has been formed in University of Delhi and many universities, taking this concept of financial literacy to a new level. Not only this, nowadays many of these edutech companies are bringing out short programs for students of 6th class, 7th class, 8th class so that they can learn the concepts related to finance, personal finance and financial management. And I must also compliment the banks. I just talked to one bank manager and they said, after 13, a child can manage his own bank account. So I think these are very important things after COVID. And it is some sort of change we have to also bring. We think when we die, we will give everything to our children. No. I think it's a time mindset change that if we are earning, we are putting some amount in mutual fund for their benefit. Why not give it to them right now? You decide what do you want to do. Now banking has been permitted. I think on this question, they still have not been given the checkbook. They still have not been given the right to invest in mutual fund. I think things cannot change if we do not permit perfect co-integration. And one more thing, if we want a big push for the mutual fund sector, I think one should be able to invest in it with 2,000 rupee note. I think we can get almost 3.6 lakh crores in the mutual fund sector if investment and withdrawal in cash was permitted, not for equities. Equities we understand, there is trading, there could be satta bazari, but mutual fund, if even partial for poor people or with people with Jan Dhan account is permitted, I think a large portion of our population can be integrated and financial inclusion can happen.
Thank you very much. I think the technology has been on the forefront of growth of the mutual fund industry in the recent years. But still there is a need for having a very robust distribution network which is reliable, which is not involving itself in the mis-selling, but at the same time is self-sustaining. It should have its own profit center. It should not be a charitable work, cannot be. So I would request Mr. Munish, who is part of the one of the biggest mutual funds, SBI mutual fund. He will be in the best position to answer this question. How a reliable and robust distribution network can be created? One or two suggestions if you can give.
Yeah. So Hindi में एक कपलेट है कहता दिल को इसी फ्रेम में रखा है उम्र भर कि इस इम्तिहान के बाद कोई इम्तिहान नहीं. This is the situation of the distribution actually in India, which in last 7-8 years they have to keep on changing their distribution model. If there is no stability in the distribution model, then the sustainability and the profitability, that is challenge for them also, and they shy away for investing in their business. So now if we want a robust distribution model, then there should be a consistency. हिंदी में कहते खून खराबा होता है तो एक बार हो जाने दो. If whatever the regulation we want for the distribution, it's a one-time exercise should happen, then for 5 years, 7 years, there should not be though I know there are times are changing. So for that, as I told in my initial words, actually the phygital is a model. With either the physical or the digital, you cannot reach out to the customer. Because mutual fund is most of a behavior management. You require for onboarding, yes, digital can help you to smoothen that process. But for servicing and educating the investor to remain invested in the testing times. When the days are good, when you're seeing a 20% return in your mutual fund portfolio, then you invest more money in the mutual fund. But when your portfolio is bleeding, you are 10% down of your initial investment. At the end of time, you require a hand holding. And as a mutual fund, we don't have so much offices. Like SBI Mutual Fund is the biggest mutual fund. We have around 250 offices in pan-India. But with 250 offices, we cannot reach out to the masses. For that, our extended hands are our distribution partner. And for them, the physical, so that they're able to manage the greeds and fear of the investor, and digital for onboarding the customer with a remunerative model, so that they can have a visible profitability, they can have a career in their distribution business. If we're able to do it, then probably the things can be different. As I told earlier also, again that can be the suggestion, that we have to make the things very, very simple. If the things are simple, then onboarding the customer is a simple, then probably, because in mutual fund we accept the money from the bank account, and whatever the money we give to the investor in the shape of redemption or in the shape of dividend, that is in the bank account only. Why the KYC is also required for the mutual fund? So persons are already KYC compliant if it is a mutual fund. If we give us some leeway, I just remember in 2008, and this study is in the Philip Kotler's book. You can refer the latest edition of Philip Kotler. They have talked about the SIP, India's success story of an SIP. They say that in 2008, SBI mutual fund has come out with a unique offering, that is a Chota SIP, 100 rupees SIP. In 2008, when the market's in the bad shape, we count with the Chota SIP, 100 rupees invest. जब 100 रुपीज़ की बात करते हैं लोगों को तो ठीक है यार, कोई बात नहीं, अगर चला गया तो कोई बात नहीं, लोगों का परसेप्शन तो यही है ना पे. तो they have started SIP of 100 rupees. After 12 months of SIP in 2009, the market has also favored. Their 1200 rupees become 1700, 1800. So they feel that yes, this can happen and they increase their SIP. And from there onward, today we are in the 14,000 crore of per month of SIP book of a mutual fund industry as such. So हमें म्यूचुअल फंड का स्वाद लोगों को चखाने के लिए उनको थोड़ा सा लीवे देना पड़ेगा ताकि वो दे बी ऑन बोर्डेड इन द म्यूचुअल फंड. If that happens, we are giving a lot of service to the people, because distributor is able to reach out to the HNI or ultra HNIs, but the people who actually need the financial planning, the people actually who need the savings, है ना, nobody is reaching out. कौन उस पर reach out था? सहारा, शारदा, those people are reaching out to them, and we know the end result. So it is the interest of those people that SEBI makes some revolutionary changes, so that those people can be onboarded in the mutual fund, so that we can say mutual fund में आज 50 करोड़ investor हैं, 3 करोड़ 70 लाख नहीं. Thank you.
Can you please give some revolutionary idea as you mentioned in the last?
No, that is only the onboarding should be a simple. है ना, people with a bank account can invest in a mutual fund. है ना, they need not to do KYC. Suppose earlier in 2008, SEBI has given a permission that you can start a SIP up to 50,000 rupees per year without the PAN number. है ना? The same way, if we can extend it, you can do a 50,000 rupees per year SIP, है ना, without any KYC. But the money should be routed through the bank only. If that thing happen, then probably that can help into reaching out to large number of audience, which probably we.
And as such, the one who is having bank account, he is already KYC'd.
Compliant.
Something
yes,
very obvious.
Yeah.
These kind of synergies are required, and connectivity or sort of linkings are required. But somehow they are not happening. I mean, every sector is working
looking
in
differently. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manish. We all appreciate that whatever has happened in the last 10-20 years in the mutual fund industry, that the ecosystem and a good ecosystem and the regulatory framework has been put in place in the country, but still it may not be adequate to take us to the next phase of development of the or growth of the mutual fund industry. I would request Mr. Alok Singh to give his thoughts whether he finds the present ecosystem and the regulatory framework sufficient, adequate enough, or would you like to give some revolutionary ideas, one or two ideas to make it much more conducive to the growth of the industry?
Okay, so if you look at the revolution and the people who follow SEBI closely, last 3 years have been no less than revolution actually. If you look at, there's a lot which SEBI has done in terms of ensuring that there is a transparency, there is proper disclosures which have to happen. However, as we have been discussing, that India is in the nascent stage in terms of the capital market, and there is a lot which has to be done, and there is a long journey from 16% maybe to 100% as a percentage of the GDP mutual funds have to go. Then in that case, there has to be, you know, more comfort which has to be drawn from the regulations. And I think more than the regulators, I would say that, you know, the fund houses and the people involved has to be very responsible in their fiduciary capacities, right? And instead, you know, like we, you know, we ourselves have to work on that, and the entire ecosystem will evolve around it. But yes, I think somewhere as SEBI has to look at from the point, then are we overdoing things, and sometimes there are overdoings which happens, and which you know, at times you know, disturb the ability of the industry to attract talents, right? And I think there is a lot which has happened in last 3 years, which especially I can say on the fund management side, that, you know, things have become very, very restrictive, and which disallows new talents to come in, and if that does not happen, then the ecosystem cannot grow. So I think that's what I will urge SEBI to look at.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anup. Most of us normally think that the mutual fund is investment in the equities. Very few people, very few individuals are exposed to the debt mutual funds, whereas they are playing a very important role. They play a very important role in the economy also, because our debt needs of the industry and infrastructure are immense, and the debt mutual funds can play a very important role. I would request Mr. Sandeep to share his thoughts on what role the debt mutual funds can play to deepen the bond market, which is the need of the hour. Let me tell you that a very deep bond market is required for funding the infrastructure industry. Across the world, the bond markets have funded the infrastructure, but in our country, the bond market is not that deep. Therefore, the infrastructure industry is depending on the bank finance. So we have to make our bond markets much bigger and much deeper. The mutual fund industry can definitely play an important role. I would request Mr. Sandeep to express his thoughts.
Thank you, Rajiv sir. So mutual funds theoretically can invest and deepen the bond markets and broaden the bond markets. However, what has happened is that most of the investments which are of the durable nature, which come from individuals, from long-term savers, have been concentrated on probably, you know, in equity assets, because India has been a growth story. If you look at a period of, let's say, 2000 to 2005, the interest rates were coming down in a very big way. From, let's say, 10-11% interest rates came down to almost 5%. So there was a capital gain generated, and, you know, 15% plus returns came from debt funds for the 5 years, 4 to 5 year period. That time, a lot of corporate money came in, and you know, to benefit of that rally in interest rates and bond prices. And at that time, the industry itself was quite small, so the retail investor could not really participate in that rally in any meaningful way, and was investing in only FDs. So that experience actually went away from the retail investor. Then came a phase where interest rates started going up, inflation went up, and interest rates also went up, which meant that the industry started buying bonds like floating rate bonds, which probably would not get affected because of rising interest rates, or they tried some other exotic structures like bonus stripping, dividend stripping. Again, the benefit was taken away by instead of the retail investor, it was more experienced by the wholesale, large treasury, institutional, corporate investors. Even now, if you look at it, after what has happened in 2017-18, where there was huge defaults by companies like DHFL, Island FS, Lance Capital, Syntex Industries, there were so many of them. Then again, what happened was the corporate India has become very, very skeptical about either duration risk because interest rates are volatile, or credit risk, which which has not paid off. So they have created strategies to convert their treasuries from profit centers to mostly cost centers, and have said that, look, your return on capital is not required from the debt part, return of capital is more important. So that amount of that fear or the lack of courage from the treasuries also reflects in the mutual fund portfolios, where most of the money is now either less than 1 year or there's hardly any money left which is more than 3 years. So unless we deepen the investor base, and again I'm coming back to the asset allocation part, unless we are able to emphasize on that and mobilize long-term money, it becomes very difficult for mutual funds to really do anything which is revolutionary or which is actually improving the bond market innovation. So we are just a reflection of what our investors think and how they behave. And of course, it is our responsibility to tell them to do things which are in their favor. But at times our advice might not be taken by, especially by the corporates who have a mind of their own. A bigger role could be played by players like pension funds, insurance companies who have growing, premium income, and they have longer horizons, and probably their investors should allow them to take more risks in terms of how they can invest their money. And if their regulator asks them to allows them to invest in riskier instruments, then the bond market would become definitely much more widespread. Currently, it is restricted to AAA or AA plus rated companies. Maybe 85 to 90% of the issuances are in AAA, and there are very few vehicles at the disposal of mutual funds to really invest in meaningfully in debt where they can innovate or deepen the market. So unfortunately, we are at a situation where only once significant risk capital comes to mutual funds in form of debt flows, then we could probably play a more meaningful role in deepening the bond market.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. We are running out of time. Still, I would request Mr. Ashish to give one difference which he feels is there in the global industry and Indian industry, which he would like India to adopt. Please tell one issue only, which you consider most important. Please be short because we have to wrap up.
So I think in global industry, you rightly told, there is a diversification of products actually. In India, what is happening, all mutual funds are driving towards the same equity, same debt and all basically. Unless until we will not diversify, the investor will also lose the interest actually. So if you see internationally, globally, ETF and other instruments are securitization, which I told in my morning discussion, that unless until our industry will not innovate on the new products actually, we have to test it actually. Otherwise, we will not test it, we will not grow it in this segment actually. So securitization is one of the area, ETF is one of the, ESG is another area. Although the challenges are there, but somebody has to take the lead. There will be some maybe returns will be less or something, but in other mutual funds also in India, the returns are not very good in all mutual funds. So diversification is one of the areas, sir. I think diversification of the product, which we need to innovate and we need to work out. And I think this will help to grow our industry in India.
Thank you very much, Ashish. Friends, time is running out, therefore we have to wrap up. I could not take the questions from the audience. I would wrap up by mentioning or saying that there is a great opportunity in this industry. There is a great scope for the growth of the industry. I will mention only two figures. There are so many figures available in the report given by Resurgent India and whatever the speakers have said. I will mention only two figures which are extreme figures of course, but they will show you what kind of potential the Indian capital market has and what kind of potential the mutual fund industry has, because ultimately mutual fund industry will also mimic the growth of the capital market. We are having only 4% of our financial savings in the capital market, whereas US is having more than 50%. Of course, that is an extreme example of super capitalism, but this is the figure, I mean, this shows the difference. And the participation in our country is 2 crore mutual fund holders, individual 3.7, okay, 3.7 crore investors, unique investors, whereas in US 80% of the population is investing in the market in one way or the other. It may not be direct, it is indirect because they are having various schemes, 41K scheme and all, through this they are investing in the markets. So this is the stark difference between our participation in the markets and the US participation. So definitely we have to move towards that. We may not reach there, we don't aspire to reach there, but there is a huge scope, there is a huge opportunity here. So friends, the industry and the regulators have to work together, and all other stakeholders also have to work together to see the markets grow and the mutual fund industry grow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being patient.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you everyone for joining us and sharing such great insights. I would request you all to please join us for the group photo. Thank you so much. Can we have a round of applause, please? Thank you, sir.